Hi guys, welcome back to Point Blank Dev. Now that we have created this nice looking registration form, I want you to think of something. It's very essential and very important. What if we filled out this form here? We filled out this form and then we hit on this, or we click this create account button. Now you see our information that we filled here automatically disappears. Come to think of what happens here. Do you know what happened? Just pay attention. You're about to learn something very important and very essential in the web development technologies. So there is a channel in which your data flows from your form to your database, and then you are being redirected to the home page. That is what happens. A lot of security checks are being made on this form to ensure that you are not trying to do anything illegal, or you are not trying to do something crazy about this form. And then if you meet the requirements, your data is being sent. As you can see, nothing happens. The data automatically disappears. It's just like a refresh, nothing happens. So there is a database in which your information or data is being stored. When you hit on this create account button, all the information you filled in this form will be sent to that database. They will be stored in each of the respective rows and columns. The information will be stored there, and then once the information is stored successfully, then you'll be redirected to the home page. Now let's see how we can create a database or a container for our users to send their details there. Now you can simply do that by saying localhost /php myadmin. Make sure you do not misspell it. Localhost /php myadmin. No internet required to do this. Just follow along. Now hit on new. We are creating a new database. We are going to call it users. Set this to collation. Hit create. No. Let's come back. Hit on this icon here. Let's drop this database. Let's delete it. Now let's create a new one. New. And the name of our project is registration. We already have that. So I'm going to drop this one too. I'm going to drop it. I already have it. So we are going to call it registration. That's the name of our database. We are going to call it registration. Set it to collation. Create. And then users. We are creating a table now in the database. The table will contain how many columns. Now we want a column whereby once the user has sent his details to our database, we want to give the user an ID, a very unique ID. That is one column. We want to store his username. That's another column. We want to store his email. We want to store his password, and we want to add another one called status to check whether the user is online or is offline. So that is 5. We are going to set 5 columns. Now we are going to hit go. Here we are going to have ID. The data type for ID is integer. So let's give the maximum length of 50. AI, let's just say auto increment. That's auto increment. When you give it auto increment, it's going to assign this primary key to it. That is, it's going to be unique. It's going to assign this primary key here automatically. So this one is going to be username, and the username is going to be a voucher, a length of 200. Email is also going to be a voucher, and then password is going to also be a voucher, 300. Let's set the password back to 200. And then status is going to be int. I told you about status. Now The status here is going to handle a Boolean condition, that is a true or false condition. Anytime you are logged in, your status will be updated to 1. And then anytime you're offline, you logged out, your status will be updated back to 0. So whenever the admin whenever the admin comes up to his database and sees any of the user's status is 1, he's going to understand that this user is logged in, and when he sees the status of 0, he's going to understand that the user is offline, he's logged out. So we are going to save. Now we have this table here. ID, you can see this key, primary key is going to be unique, username, email, password. So now what we are going to do is we are going to connect this page, we are going to connect our project to this database. The name of our database is registration. We are going to connect to it. So let's come back to our project here. Now I created a PHP file called server. So in the server, we are going to write our PHP here. Now I'm going to start a session. Session start. Session start. Now I want to connect to the database. We can connect to the database. Let's create a variable that will store the connection or handle the connection. And db is equal to my SQLi connect. Now what do we want to connect to? We want to connect to the local host. The local host. This server is called a local host. You can see a local host. It's called a local host. And then the user is going to be root. And then we don't have any password. And then the name of our database is registration. Registration. Make sure you do not misspell. Have it exactly the way you have it. As you can see, registration. Make sure you do not misspell. Registration. We are good to go. Now, this is my SQLi connect function. Takes 4 parameters. My SQLi connect. This is the syntax. It takes 4 parameters. The first one is the type of host. When we are using the local host, it's always local host. And then the second one, the second parameter is always, the second parameter is the user or the username. Now our user is going to be root because we are not using a live server, we just get the root user. Okay, and then we don't have any password for this database. The third parameter is the password, and then the last one is the database. Is the database name. The database name. So as you can see that our host is the local host, our user is the root, and then our password, we don't have any password to our database, it's empty. And then the name of our database name is registration. Now let's check if the connection is true. If and db want to check if this is true, if this exists, if the connection exists, we want to simply say connection successful. End the statement here. Connection successful. But in order for our stuff to work, we have to import this server to the registration page here. We are going to include it. We are going to include it. going to include it. So we are going to require it once. Now the path to the file, we are going to require what file are we requiring to this page, or what file are we importing or linking to this page, and it is the server.php. Server.php. So all the methods and functions in this file here will be linked to this file here. Everything is linked. So I'm going to do that for the index page too. So let's come back, refresh, continue. Now we can see connection successful. That means we have successfully connected to the database. Now it's working. Oh my God, that is so good. So now that we know our connection is successful, so for instance our connection was not successful, then we simply want to say connection failed, connection failed. So if I decide to change, if I make any mistake in the spelling here, and then I come back and then do this, refresh, whoa, you see the warning here, connection failed. Now you can see connection is failed. So let's remove this. Now we know that our connection is successful. Refresh. We know that our connection is successful. So we want to now prepare the user's details. We want to receive them. So, but as we receive them, we want to store them inside variables. Let's go back to our registration page. We have the username, which the user is going to enter here. The name of this input field is username. Now in PHP, the name attribute is what you use in targeting your files. So we are going to target this input field using the name. What the user enters here will be stored inside a variable. Username, another one, email, password, confirm password. So let's come back to our server. Now we say, now if the user have entered this whole stuff here and pressed this button, this create account button, this button here, he fills out this field and then he hits this button. We want to check if the user has clicked that button. If he has clicked the button, and then if he has clicked the button, then we want to do some things. We want to validate everything that he has entered to check if there is no bad stuff the user is trying to do. Everything is just legit. We just want to check if everything is legit before we can receive the details. So now the name of this button, let's give it a name. Let's say the name is create underscore account. Now I'm going to copy it the way I have here. I want to check if that button is clicked. Now if is set is what we are going to use to check if that button is clicked. If it's set and the user is, if it's set and post, if it's set $ post. Now if the user has clicked this create an account button, which is trying to send some data, we simply want to do something. We simply want to grab the username and store it inside a username variable. This is a variable we have created, and we want to escape Now there are times whereby the user will try to do some SQL injection and then try to drop our database or do some bad stuff to our details or to our database. So we want to escape or want to prevent ourselves from being a victim of hackers or those who are trying to do some SQL injection. So we can simply do that by saying my SQLi real escape string. My SQLi real escape string, and this from the database whatever the user is trying to send. Now my SQLi real escape string, check what the user is posting to the database, check what the user is trying to send to the database, and remove, or let me say escape the string, escape the SQLi injection the user is trying to send to the database. Now this is our database, this is the connection. Escape string from the database whatever the user is trying to send in the username column. Now same for the email. Email is going to be same, my SQLi real escape string from the database whatever the user is trying to send in the email column. Password, my SQLi real escape string from the database whatever the user is trying to send to the password row, and then the confirm password. Same in the confirm password. And post confirm underscore password. So now the name here must correspond to the name of your input field. Name is username, name email, the name is password, the name is confirm password. So now that the user has clicked on that button, we want to check if the username field is empty. So if empty and if the username field is empty, we simply want to redirect them back to this page. We simply want to redirect them back to this page. Now, if the username field is empty, we still want to redirect them back to the same register page and then ask them to enter the username or tell them that the username field cannot be empty. So the location to where we are redirecting is the register, the PHP file, and then we want to append some error message to the URL. And error is going to be, let's concatenate it. We are going to URL encode. We are going to encode it on the URL. We are going to encode this message on the URL that please enter the username. Please, yes, ask them to choose. Please choose your username. We don't want this to be happening often, so we are going to exit it once it's executed. Now we can check the same thing for the email. If empty and post email, we simply want to do the same thing again, but this time around we are telling them that, hey, please enter your email. So once you want to check if empty then underscore post password, we simply want to tell them the same message. Please choose your password, and then if the confirmed password is empty too, please confirm your password. Please confirm your password. So now we want to check if the password the user has provided here and the one he's confirming are not the same. If the two of them are not the same, we want to simply tell them that, hey, the two passwords do not match. So if the password the user is trying to send is not equal to the confirmed password, but there is no need for us to keep using this $_post since we have this already here. We have the $_post already stored in the password. So what we are simply going to say is that I want to ask them if the password variable is not equal to the confirmed password variable. If the password variable is not equal to the confirmed password variable, then we simply want to redirect them still on the same page. Let them not move anywhere until they are through with the errors they are making. Location, the register.php file, and then we want to pass an error to them. We're also going to encode this on the URL encode this message. Tell them that the passwords you entered do not match, and then we want to exit this anytime it's executed. So now let's refresh and see something. So if I hit create account, if I say 1, 2, 3, and I say 4, 5, 6, now they say the password you entered do not match. Now I have encoded this in the URL. This is the message in the URL. The password you entered do not match. Let's say passwords. Let's refresh. Let me remove this message. So if I choose say 1, 2, 3 and I say 2, 3, 4, the passwords you entered do not match. So I want to check if the username the user had provided is not less than, I want to make sure that the username the user is providing is not less than 5 characters. So you must choose a username that is 5 characters and above. So I can simply, let me do that up here. It doesn't matter where you do it. So I want to say if the username is less than or equal to 4 characters, then we want to tell the user that the reason why I'm always redirecting them using this header, this is called a redirect. I'm redirecting them to the same page, this same page here. They are not going to move anywhere. The reason why I'm redirecting them is that they are doing something that is wrong. So until they do something that is right, then they'll be redirected to the right page. So I will still redirect them back to the register page. And then I'm going to append this error to the URL by saying URL encode this message that choose a username that is 5 characters and above. As usual, I'm still going to exit this function anytime it is executed. So if I refresh, now if I say my username is WER password 123 123, and if I hit choose a password, choose a username that is 5 characters and above, it is because I entered my username to be WER and see it is less than 5 characters. So let's come back, and then as you can see, the password too, we have to validate it. If the user is entering a password that's maybe 3 digits, 4 digits, 5 digits, it could be easily guessed. So in order to enhance their own security and protect our name, we simply have to ask them to enter a password that is 5 characters and above. So if the password is less than 5 characters, we are not going to accept it. So let's check here. If the password is less than or equal to 4 characters, then we are going to tell them that choose a password that is 5 characters and above. Simple. Now if I enter this, do everything correct, and I just say 1 2 3 1 2 3, and I do this. Oops. Choose a password. Let me remove this message from the URL here. Choose a username. Now if I choose a username, I do it and I say 1 2 3 1 2 3, and I send it. The reason why it is not sending this message is because I did a mistake. Now let's check the string length. If the string length of what the user is trying to post as the password, string length of what the user is trying to send or as the password is less than 4 characters, is less than 5 characters, then let's ask them to do this. Choose a username that is 5 characters and above. Let's see now. 1 2 3 1 2 3. And why is that? If string length and post password. Let's come back here, refresh. Let me delete this message. If I choose 1 2 3 1 2 3. Choose a password that is 5 characters and above. Now you can see everything is working properly. So in the username here, we are trying to check if the length of the string length of what the user is trying to send as the username. The string length post password is less than or equal to 4 characters. Is less than or equal to 4 characters. Then we simply want to give them this message. Quite explanatory. So I'm going to do this again. I say 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5. Now, as you can see here, we just had 3, and then here we had 5. So we have to check the 2 of them. Now, if the string length of what the user is trying to post here, or this is or you can use or like this, or what the user is trying to send us is confirm password. Now what this will do is, if any of them is greater than 4, it will validate, but that's not what we want. We want that 2 of them must be greater than 4. So we are going to say and, double and, or you can simply say and. So, but I love using this and. If the two of them must be greater than 5 characters for it to be good. So if both of them are less than 5 characters, that is if they are 4 characters below, this is what we want to do. We are going to simply tell you that you're making a big mistake. You are making an error. There is an error with your stuff. So now I think we have validated this form. So what we are going to do next is, if the user has done everything good, then we want to simply redirect the user to the login page. You want to grab his details. And then send. Let me add something here. Let me add else if. This is going to work the same, no difference. So this one. So if this username is less than or equal to 4 characters, you are going nowhere. Any of these things happen, we are going to go nowhere. In the case that everything happens correctly, then we want to create a variable called query. Now what we are going to do is we are going to collect everything that the user has entered and sent to our database. So we are going to write a query. Now we are going to insert into the users. Now this is the users table. The name of the table is users. Insert into users. Username, email, password, status. username, email, password. Make sure you do not misspell anything, and then status. Insert into that these values. The value for the username is going to be username. The value for the email is going to be email. The value for the password is going to be what the user is entering as his password, and the value, and then the value for his status is going to be no, we are not going to update the status now. Let us simply leave the status out of this. So when we insert into users table in the row username, email, password, these values here, then let us prepare this query. Let's say result. Let's create a variable. Result is going to be db query, and what we are passing is this query. So now, once we have inserted this into the users table, then we want to create a session. We want to create a session whereby we can always grab the user's name and then display. We want to store his details in a session, okay, so that whenever he's logged in, we are going to identify that it is this particular user that is on this particular page. So we are going to create a session. Session, the name of the session is going to be username, and the session username is going to be session username is and session username is going to be the user's name. Then once you have created a session, then we want to write another query. Now we are going to update the users table. Update users. Set status. But let me not write this query. So let's just redirect the user straight to the home page. So we are going to redirect the user to the index.php. Now we have successfully redirected the user to the home page. Let's see what we have. Let's refresh. Let's make sure we fill everything correctly. And I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you create account. Oops, nothing is happening. So let's check if this query was successful. If it was successful, then what is if and result? Then let's say I sent his details. This is just a check to see if our query was successful. Else, we want to say else. We want to say we want to say sending details. Semicolon. Now we're going to refresh. Say this. I want to say I want to write my name. Or let's just say 1 2 3 4 5. Choose a password of your choice. 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'm going to add 6. Create. Oops. Let's come back to our database. Let's see. I don't know where this error is coming from, but I'm going to check it out. No, we don't have anything in our users. And why is that? Now I simply want to remove this else I added here. This else I added here. I know, let's just try and fix this. So to refresh. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Create. Now why is our details not always coming here? Insert into users, username, value. Now why is this? Okay, but let me comment this out. In the next video, we are simply going to see how we can send these details to the database and then redirect to the home page. This video was initially just to see how we can make database connection and then validate all the user inputs. So, but since we have successfully validated all the user inputs, when we entered a username that is less than 3 characters, and then we hit on the create account button, it told us that our username must be 5 characters and above. So username, choose a username that is 5 characters and above. That is working properly. So in the next video, we are going to continue from grabbing the user's data and then sending to the database, store them in the database, create a session where they can always resume from their activities, and then redirect them to the home page. So this is it for this tutorial, and as usual, if this is the kind of stuff you like or want, always subscribe and then like the video, share, but if you can't share, then like, drop down a comment, and then I hope to see you in the next class.